during this time, Jeremiah, some people are just joining us too, I think. Jeremiah has been sharing about 3 things. Number 1, during this time, and in life in general, not just during this time, is to 1, create space, 2, routine, so maintain routine, and 3, normalcy. You know, we ask couples, what caused you to feel love for the other person in the first place?
Yeah.
If you have stopped doing that, then start doing it again, right? And so, no, that's good.
And here's the thing. If the couple is at a point in their relationship, or they get to a point during this time and it's just not working, this is where marriage counseling is very important.
A mediator.
This is where, exactly. Yep. And this is where, you know, in my role, you know, where I come into play is, and I'm pulling out now, it's not even about meeting needs anymore and all that stuff. You know, we got to go to the root source. What's actually happening emotionally? Mm-hmm. What's actually going on? And oftentimes we'll find there's just a lack of attachment. There's maybe a lack of awareness. Maybe there is a lack of availability. All right. And that's another thing that Sue Johnson will oftentimes talk about is, are you available? Are you actually present? I mean, we're talking right now, but I mean, I could very easily be like, yeah, oh yeah, I totally agree, Jason. Yeah, I'm here, but am I really here? Am I really available and present? Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's where the counselor can actually come into play and help recognize and catch those little things.
I think that's really important
towards that. Yeah.
It's really important with your children too. I mean, we're talking about spousal,
absolutely.
But like, especially during this time, I've already heard of a few parents where kids are asking questions like, Mom, is this the end of the world, and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so, I mean, you really need to create that space, and you already talked about that for yourself and also for the family, but it's very important for children. We always say that it's the married couple first, because you had one another first before you had children, and you will be the best for your children when you're the best for one another, right? But talking about children, we need to create that space for them during this time as well. And then skipping ahead a bit into routine, man, do children ever need routine?
I'll tell you, I got to give a shout out to my daughter, Alexandria. Okay. Oh my gosh. I was so proud of her this morning because she's been working through some fears and some stuff, and, you know, and just with everything going on, because a lot of changes, a lot of like, oh, it's online school. Okay. Well, yay. You know, not everyone's created to be self-learners. Okay. Some people need that interaction within the school system. Okay. And this is where the number one thing, how do we create routine if we've gotten out of routine? What do I do, Jeremiah? All right. Well, it's not just me, but this is just what other individuals, like some of my information even that I share, another guy, his name is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He's a medical doctor, PhD, and he's a trauma specialist. Okay. And one of the things that he recommends, and I recommend as well, is just creating predictability. How do you create predictability? Have a schedule. Whether you do a schedule by, you know, whether it's a manual, writing it down in your notebook or day timer, whether it's on your computer, on your phone, create your schedule. Well, my daughter, Alexandria, this morning, she's like, hey, Daddy, do you know what I'm doing? Oh, yeah, what are you doing? You know, she's like, oh, I schedule my school in. I schedule where we're going to have supper. I schedule when I need to do this.
There you go.
Oh, my gosh. She is on step 1 to success. Mm-hmm. If this goes on till July, August, etc., because she will now have the beginning pattern of creating predictability to be able to now create normalcy within her life. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And that's so powerful.
You know, one thing I think has been great about social media, because there's definitely things about it that aren't great. We know that it's a neutral source, just like the internet. It's not bad, good or evil. But what I love about what I've been seeing on Facebook, and I'm sure a lot of the moms, if there's any moms watching this here tonight, have appreciated, is moms are sharing things and resources to help with routines. A lot of parents, moms especially, have been noticing that the kids are snacking all day. And I saw one lady, she had this amazing idea. She had 3 kids, and so she had plastic baskets, all 3 different colors, with snacks in there for the day. So the kids weren't just going and raiding the cupboards and draining the groceries for the week, but they had those snacks for the day. And so I think that's really great, because that there even had to do with routine. right? For children.
Well, I'm now going to
So
take
important.
some notes down.
So this is a great thing about social media. That's so cool. It can help with things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. When we have social isolation, part of that thing is a loss of connection,
Yeah.
you know, and even though, and here's the big term, you know, another term that I want to share is the term that it goes like this: similar but different. Mm-hmm. Yes, you and I, we would normally do this and go for coffee and we just be talking like what we're doing right now, you know. And yes, it is different. It's not the same. Mm-hmm. You know, many of my clients, you know, it's this actually what you're seeing right now. I might change the angle of the room for fun just to spice things up a bit here and there. But this is video online counseling. Yeah. All right. If you were a client and I was talking with you, Jeremiah, you know, what are some suggestions? Or, hey, I'm having some issues. Let's talk about things. This is exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. What right now, you and I talking and connecting. Now, it's not the same, obviously, as face to face. Yeah. But what's interesting is there are even studies that have shown for certain topics, certain concepts like depression and anxiety, this medium can actually and has demonstrated to increase in the ability to deal with some of those things. Wow, that's when I read that, oh my gosh, I was blown away and I was like, that's interesting. So, you know, one of my first questions that I'm asking, you know, with all my clientele has been, hey, how is this medium? Is this working okay? You know, and it's like, yeah, actually, this is really good. They've appreciated it, you know. You know, I've got a friend of mine, you know, good friend of mine, he's been doing some work just with some other issues and stuff like that they've been working through in their life and being vulnerable with it and going, yeah, it's time to deal with this stuff. But, and this is no offense to those that are doing it, but their individual they're dealing with this stuff with is all phone. And they're like, man, I want to do what we're doing. I was doing some Zoom conversations with them and they're like, man, this is so much better. Yeah. You know, so that's why I've chosen the online format, right?
Well, you know, because at least in video, you can still see body language. You can see micro expressions, right? And so actually speaking of that, I've been really, as a pastoral care and with my own church, I've been encouraging people during this time, especially. You already mentioned keeping connections with people. Yeah. Use this stuff. It is free.
Absolutely.
You're paying for your internet, but of course we all do. Yeah. But I mean, man, make use of this stuff. We need personal connection with people. It's so important.
Here's the thing. If you go for a Tuesday for a coffee with a friend, all right, that's your regular go-to. But I'm stuck. I'm isolated. What do I do? I know it's different, but create a similar but different habit. Keep it up. Exactly. Have the habit. I'm having my glass of water.
You have your glass of water. For those of you who joined later, Jeremiah doesn't drink coffee for good reason. Anyways.
Very good reason.
But no, you're right. We can have coffees. We can connect. As a matter of fact, I often, throughout life, I always have peer mentors, other pastors that I meet with. They're not always even from the organization that I'm with, but many times they are. There's one gentleman I meet with at least monthly. And so I said, hey, let's just do a Zoom coffee. And so we're going to do that here sometime coming up.
Perfect. So that is exactly, you know, that's exactly what I believe at least needs to happen. And that will help create now out of that. You're not just doing a routine. You're creating normalcy within your life. That's so powerful.
That's right.
You know? Yeah. Now, here's the other thing that happens, right, with people, Jason, is great. That's all awesome, Jeremiah, but I am still stuck. I'm still feeling stuck with what I'm doing. And I know what I need to do, but what do I do? Well, that is the other area that when we deal with loss that happens with people, especially in these kind of situations, and that's immobility. Mm-hmm. And what we got to do is create a thing of immobility and transfer it over to be mobile, have mobility. Okay. And one of the things that I've actually this week, that's kind of been one of my little mantras that I've been sharing with everyone this week that I've been talking to, and I'll share with you as well and all your viewers here tonight is really, it is as simple. And again, this is that ridiculous stuff that everyone knows, but you have to still do it in order to get going. In order to go from immobility to mobility, literally what I recommend is you literally have to stand up. All right. That's the first thing you do. Stand up. And then I'm not kidding. Take 2 steps forward. wherever you're at. Okay. And even if that's all you do, and then you go sit back down, you have at least done a moment of mobility to work out of whatever you're dealing with, whether it's depression, anxiety, whether it's just, I'm just so terrified, paralyzed with fear with everything going on. I just heard the news report and oh my gosh, this didn't help me because I've been watching too much news, which by the way, you shouldn't be doing. If that's not your regular routine, if all you do is watch a half hour of news or an hour of news, stick with just watching a half hour news. That's just a little side plug. Right?
Yeah. And you know what? I want to speak into that real quickly.
Yeah.
I really encourage people, don't leave the news on a TV in your house playing all day.
No.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to get stuck in following the narrative that they feed you.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, we're not saying don't watch the news. It's like the old religious church days, right? Don't go to the pool hall. Don't go to the movie.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
And that's why I allow you, that's why I really appreciate you even, Jason, for allowing this space, because that's one of the concerns I have with media right now, whether it's social media, radio, you name it. Yep. There's not even, unless I'm wrong, I don't even view what I would consider even 10% of education to know how to deal with this stuff. Even just hand washing videos, hey, we're going to take a 2-minute segment and show you how to wash your hands again. As simple as that many people actually don't know how to do properly, but we got to learn how to do it now. All right. Forevermore. And it was only just last week I started seeing driving on Stony. They just started saying, hey, wash your hands, COVID-19.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It's like
now, I'm not trying to complain, not trying to blame. Please understand that. But that should have been done a month ago. Do you know what I'm saying? With everything that was going on. And, that's part of that education, lack of education. But because we don't have accountability within media right now, we got to start somewhere. And this is where forums like this, I'm very appreciative of that space to be able to do that with.
Awesome.
My little political side piece there. So.
We won't hold that against you. No.
All right.
That's all right. Yeah. And so I'm just repeating them over and over again, the 3, because there's viewers that are coming on later as well. Tonight, Jeremiah has been talking about, what do you call this? Do you call this a process of something or your...
I'll just say a process of how to deal with sudden loss, sudden change, in relate with sudden change is just a friendlier way of saying grief and loss. Okay.
And so we're talking about number 1 is to create space. Number 2 is routine, maintaining routine. And number 3 is normalcy.
But I want to reiterate again, Jason, as far as like the 3 points, the real 2 sub points that I really want to just let all the viewers know again is number 1, create that schedule, write it out, type it out, have your routine set for the day, which will help create normalcy. And if you're stuck even doing that, then you got to do the real simple step of get up, take 2 steps forward. And then maybe allow another 2 steps to what that next thing needs to be. But even if it's 2 steps, you're at least creating that immobility to have mobility.
That's right. Yeah. If you think about it, if a body of water remains still, there's no inlet and outlet, it becomes stagnant.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's really what I feel. Hopefully I'm hearing you correctly, that's what's going to keep things moving and keep things flowing. If that's all you can do, then do it. Because you're right, because fear does paralyze, right? Fear can paralyze people. Awesome. So, and just if there's a few other things, Jeremiah, that another thing that you would like to share, and I'll keep an eye and let you know when there's a question.
Sure. Well, while we're doing that, I guess one thing that's been on my heart as well is just being aware as well as what are your coping mechanisms with all of this. Because here's the thing, if you're not doing that, if you're not creating routine, creating space, creating normalcy in your life, that's going to lead to creating, coping skills. And of course, that can be what I've just talked about is healthy coping skills, but there's the other area of unhealthy coping skills, which of course, and that's my biggest fear that I'm waiting, not to be negative sounding, but I'm kind of waiting for the downfall for those that don't know how to do that and create healthy coping skills. We are going to probably see, more than likely, we'll call it a prediction, we're going to see an increase in drugs and alcohol. We're going to see an increase in the use of pornography. because of too much downtime, too much space, alone time, that when actually you should be connecting, even if it's just this. If you're single, you still need to have connection. All right. Just like this. If you do have a family and a loved one, you have to hug, touch your kids. It's okay. Okay. You have to do that still.
You're in the same house. It's okay.
You're in the same house.
Even with all that's going on.
Like, sorry, if someone's got it, you got it. All right. So you might as well hug and love each other, you know? And so out of that, you know, those are areas where sometimes people struggle with, like a loss of sense of time and all those different concepts, that we have to be able to maintain connectivity that way. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's so important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because medicating is not coping.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't want to, and I shared this with you as we were talking about this beforehand, even entertainment can become medicating.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're doing it in excess, and it's like you're ignoring your family because you're watching 7 hours of Netflix binging a show.
That would never happen.